What's up, y'all? In this video, I'm really excited to talk to y'all about a subject matter in the fishing community that's really like a hot topic and something that's under a lot of debate, and that is color. And does color really matter when selecting your lure choice, and how color impacts like how fish feed and their behaviors? So for this video, y'all, I'm really excited to kind of break down everything, how color relates to fishing, and just breaking it down like both scientifically and in theory. So let's just get right to it, and let me answer the question that's under much debate. Does color matter when it comes to selecting your lure choice? My opinion, yes, it does matter. I think it matters to a certain extent though. And I want to talk everything about like when I really hone in on a certain color, and also when color might not matter as much. But the short answer to the question of this video, yes, absolutely, color does matter. So fish are highly adaptive and evolved to really maximize their feeding potential, or really just how effective they can feed and hone in on their prey. So with that, fish are highly evolved in both eyesight, and also they have a lot of other senses that relate to eyesight, as well as like vibrations. So color does absolutely matter when it comes to fishing. So in this video, I'm gonna start out by breaking down kind of like the science-based facts about how color impacts fish. And then I'm also gonna talk to y'all about how I break down my tackle box, everything from my hard plastics, soft plastics, all of my lures, even my metal baits, to relating to color, and how I select my lure choice based off of the type of fishing that I'm doing for that particular species and water conditions. So obviously we can't communicate with fish, and it's near impossible to detect like especially what type of colors that fish may or may not be colorblind to. But there has been some science and a lot of research done about fish and their vision. What we do know is that fish have two types of really like receptive cells in their eyes, and those are rod cells and cone cells. The main thing to pay attention to with how they relate is rod cells in their eyes are almost more kind of like vibration sensed, and they also are relating more to like silhouettes, whereas cone cells are related more to color. So we don't know specifically what colors fish can and cannot see like we do some other animals. Like we know that bulls, they can't see red. We know that deer can't see orange. We don't know specifically what colors fish can and cannot see. We do know, however, that color does make an impact in your effectiveness or not effectiveness out on the water. So it's important to kind of understand how we do know about fish and their sense and their vision, as well as their senses, and how that relates to color. It's also important to kind of think about the type of fishing that you're doing when it relates to color. A lot of the fishing that we do is shallow water, inshore, saltwater fishing. So for that, color does matter because simply you have more light penetration in shallower water. If you're fishing deep water, like 90 feet, 80 feet, or over 100 feet, really deep water, then that's where color is going to matter less and the profile will matter more. My personal opinion with color and everything is that the most important things to think about are your lure action and your profile. If you don't have the right profile bait, and if you don't have the right action that you're applying to that lure, then your chances of catching a fish are significantly lower. So you want to make sure those are the two main important things that I pay attention to, is the profile of the bait. So that's the first thing that I'm going to pay attention to before color, is really like, what are the fish feeding on? What's the bait that they're feeding on, and what are they keying in on? So fish do key in on a certain forage, and they do that different times of the year and under different conditions as well. And it's important to think about these things and how it relates to color, because fish, they also have a lot of receptors, like both a lateral line and just depending on different species of fish, of how they can detect certain vibrations in the water. So that's why, like mirror lures, we have a little bit of vibration. We've got little beads in here. So top water, you also have some beads right here that create a little bit more vibration, because that's what's also going to draw a fish's attention. So the next thing that I want to talk about is kind of like the general rules of thumb when it comes to selecting color. And these are things that a lot of people know about. The darker the water, typically the darker the bait. The lighter the water, clearer the water, typically the more natural color the bait. The reason why that I had a hard time kind of thinking about why the heck do we choose a darker color for darker water? Well, it's kind of easy to think about. So the best way to think about that is imagine that you are in a room and you turn the lights off, but you can see the silhouette of like a dresser or a piece of furniture. Like, this happens to me all the time when I get up in the middle of the night and I got to go to the bathroom and I see like a dark piece of furniture or a dark, something like laying on the floor. That's exactly how fish relate to colors in darker water. Because these fish, the bait fish, if you guys ever like snorkel, or you look at underwater footage of like Planet Earth or whatever, then you'll see that fish and bait fish of all species, their survival tactic is, well, they've been evolved to blend in with like the background or their surroundings. So that's where contrast is really, really important when you think about how to choose the right color, because we want a lure that's going to contrast well with the water conditions. So that's why like a darker bait, like these darker baits right here, will actually contrast well and show up better in darker water. So a lot of these fish, they're going to be using in that darker water more of their rod cells in their eyeballs, which are going to be more focused on the silhouettes. So that's why in darker water we want a darker lure, because it's going to create more of that silhouette effect. So we also have like, this is a great low light top water lure. So you've got orange on the bottom, black on top. So when you're fishing the lower light conditions, you want something that's going to create that silhouette. That's what a fish is going to be keying in on when it's looking at a top water lure, is the silhouette of the fish. So darker colors do a better job at creating more of that silhouette, which is why darker colors work better in darker water. All right, y'all, so I've got all my lures right here, and I want to talk about, here's my soft plastics, and let's start with that, because I have all my soft plastics right here, everything from clear water down to darker water right here, and all the different like colors that I fish based off of the water conditions. So when I'm fishing clear water, like in Florida, like the Keys, I'm fishing Fort Myers, I'm fishing in Stewart, then I'm gonna be using something that looks very natural right here, just like this. This is a DOA bait buster. This is one of the most popular lures in Florida, and it works great because, again, just the profile of it looks amazing and it looks very, very natural. So this right here is what I'm gonna be using in very, very clear water. So for my hard plastics, this right here is a lure that's gonna work great for clear water, because again, see how natural that this bait looks. So this is a great lure for clear water. This is the Mirror lure, and I also love this lure. Again, profile to me is very, very important. So these are more of the clear water lures right here, natural colored lures. And then as the water gets a little bit more darker or stained, that's where we're gonna be moving more towards these colors right here, like our browns, our pumpkins. We also have like electric chicken, New Penny. New Penny is a great color. This is Berkeley Gulp. This works great, really, in all water clarities, whether it is clear or more stained. But this right here mimics a shrimp. This is gonna work really well in the heavily stained and brownish water that we have in the Outer Banks. I love this because not only is it darker with the root beer color, but you've got some gold flakes as well that really contrast well with that darker lure that draw a little bit more attention. And then you've got the chartreuse tail. When I'm fishing for speckled trout, and I'm fishing in a lot of like grassy areas, and this right here is probably my favorite speckled trout colored lure. And I can use this from Florida all the way up the East Coast. This is a Creole croaker. This right here mimics a pinfish really well in the water. So this is a Creole croaker, and I use this everywhere from Virginia Beach, North Carolina, and all the way down to Florida as well. So we've got our clear water lures right here, more natural colored. So there is like the science based and the facts that we want in clear water something that's a little bit more natural. And in darker water, we want something that's gonna contrast well, just like this. But then sometimes you can just throw all that out the window and you can fish these random colors like electric chicken right here, or pink right here, this Berkeley Gulp Jerk Shad. Or you've got this electric chicken double XL mirror lure. And these lures kind of draw a little bit more of a reactionary bite. Whereas these lures right here, we are really mimicking, you know, the forage that's in the area. But these ones, we're actually, the strategy and the thought process is a little different because we're going for something that's gonna draw that reactionary bite. So that's where our brighter color lures, the chartreuse and things like that, are gonna draw that strike. So when I'm looking at my brighter color lures, I absolutely love this electric chicken because you still have a little bit of that natural color to it, but then something about this pink and the chartreuse, I don't know if it kind of resembles like a shrimp or just a bait fish that's a little bit brighter, something that stands out, and we're going for that reactionary strike. But as the fish get really finicky, especially here in Virginia, North Carolina in the wintertime, and then I'll switch to something that's very natural looking and a little bit more of a subtle presentation. But as you can see, this lure right here is actually a very expensive lure. This is a Mega Bass Vision 110, and I absolutely love it because you've got this dark purple on the back. This is actually a largemouth bass fishing lure, but it really mimics the bait and the forage that the speckled trout and the redfish and striper are feeding on in the dead of winter. So I have significantly outfished people with this lure as opposed to this mirror lure right here in the wintertime. Why? Because the profile is great, the action is great, so it's kind of got its head down like this. It's a little bit more weighted in the front, and then just the action of this lure coupled with the profile of it is something that I think really draws a lot of those strikes. Some other things, like when I'm cobia fishing, I like orange and I like pink, and I like colors like this right here. This orange and these colors just like this, they mimic more of like a crab type color pattern. So these right here for cobia fishing work really, really well. I like these colors when I'm cobia fishing. That's just my preference. I also like pink and white because this right here is going to mimic their bait fish that they're feeding on that time of year. But a lot of people, a lot of charter guides who I talk with, they really like orange colors for cobia because that does mimic like a crab. So another species that I want to talk about as well is like Spanish mackerel, bluefish, king mackerel, and even like barracuda, because like people say, like if you're snorkeling and there's barracuda around, take off your jewelry and all that, because those fish are keying in on like the glass minnows, they're keying in on bright, flashy things. So that's where for Spanish mackerel, we're gonna be using these right here, like our metal baits. So for Spanish mackerel, that's what we're gonna be using as well. Spanish mackerel also, I've fished right next to someone who was using, my buddy was using like a red leader line, and we were fishing for Spanish mackerel. I think he caught like 2 Spanish mackerel to my 20. So, you know, you do want to keep that in mind as well, that, you know, Spanish mackerel, they do feed in the clear water just like king mackerel. They don't really like that cloudier water. So that's where they are going to be looking for bright, shiny lures. So our hard metal baits are going to be effective for those. I hope that helps y'all, but I do want to encourage y'all, don't overthink your color. Color to me is really important because I think that it directly relates to confidence. And to me in fishing, confidence is absolutely everything. When I'm fishing and I'm going out, it's coming out of my own pocket, and you know, it's time and money that I'm out there on the water, so I want to be as effective as possible. So I'm going to always be fishing in areas and with lures that I feel most confident that are going to maximize my fish catching potential. So the answer to the question is, does color matter when it comes to fishing lures? Yes, color does matter to an extent. It doesn't mean that you have to like overthink your lure color choices. There are some people who do overthink it. I do want to preface by saying that. There are some people who say, yeah, the fish were only keyed in on this certain color at this day. You know, maybe that is true. We don't know that. We can't communicate with fish. My opinion is, I think that some people definitely overthink color choice. I think that it's important to know what the fish are keying in on in their bait and their forage at that particular time of year, and just try and match that as close as you can with the lure that you're selecting. So hopefully that helps y'all out. You know, I would love to hear your comments, because I know this is a subject of much debate and it's a really hot topic in the fishing community. If you guys have any other comments or any other videos that you'd like us to do, then absolutely drop us a line below in the comment section. Please help out this channel, give us a subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video. All right, y'all, peace out.